Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I am your chemistry teacher here, and today we are going to discuss the modern periodic table, which is mentioned in chapter number 3 on page number 66 to 68. Now we are going to discuss the modern periodic table. But in the previous lecture, we studied about the history of the periodic table involving the Newland, Dobberinier and the Mendeleev contributions, and their contributions were based on the atomic masses. All these scientists' contributions were based on the atomic masses, but Moseley for the first time was given the concept about the modern periodic table and based on the and their contribution was based on the atomic number. Now, the modern periodic table was put forward by Henry Wayne Jeffreys Moseley. He is an English physicist. Modern periodic table. This table is based on the atomic number. Now, what is the atomic number? Atomic number means that the number of electrons or protons present in an atom. Now, the modern periodic law states that the modern periodic table was based on the modern periodic law. And now, what is the modern periodic law? Means that the physical and the chemical properties of the elements are the periodic function of their atomic number. Means that the physical or the chemical properties of the elements are the periodic function, means are the repetition of the properties, are the repetition of the properties and based on the atomic number. In this way, the elements with the similar properties are repeated at a regular interval. This law states that the physical or the chemical properties of the elements are the repetition or are repeated at a regular interval, means after some time or after a specific time the physical and the chemical properties of the elements are repeated at a regular interval. In simplified form, it is divided into 8 vertical columns known as groups or families and the 7 horizontal rows known as the periods. Means that the Moseley give the main points, like the first point was based, this table is based on the atomic number. Second one, that the modern periodic table was based on the modern periodic law. And the third one, the main point is about that the he classified the modern periodic table into groups and the periods. Now, what are the groups? Groups means that the vertical columns. Groups means that the vertical columns and having the 8 vertical columns. 8 vertical columns known as groups, or also we can say that the families, and the 7 horizontal rows known as the periods. So, we discuss these terminologies one by one. It's the modern periodic table. We will explain this modern periodic table through stepwise, that 7 periods are present and 8 groups are present in the modern periodic table. So you can see on your screen that these are the periods. These are the periods: period 1, period 2, period 3, period 4, period 5, period 6 and period 7. So we can say that in the modern periodic table, consist of the 7 periods, means that the horizontal rows known as a periods, then consist of the main groups, like the group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4, group 5, group 6, group 7 and group 8. So these are the vertical columns. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So these are the vertical columns. Means that the 8 groups. So in the modern periodic table consists of the 7 periods and the 8 vertical columns. Then we discuss about the periods. that what is the period means that the horizontal rows of the elements in the periodic table are called the periods. They are numbered from 1 to 7. The horizontal rows mean that the straight line rows. So these are called the periods. They are numbered from 1 to 7. Like you can see that the in this picture that the periods along the horizontal rows. So the horizontal rows are known as the periods and they are numbered from 1 to 7. Then the period number. What is the period number? The period number represents the number of shells in an element. Now what is the period? Means that the period number represents that the number of shells, means that the n value means that the number of shells in an element. All the elements in the same period have the same number of the shells or the orbit. All the elements which is present in the same period having the same number of the shells or the orbit. In the first, second and the third period, the number of shells are 1, 2, and 3. Means that the period number means that the number of shells. And the second point is about that the elements which is present in the same period having the same number of the shells. In the first period, second or the third, in the first period all the elements consist of the one shell. In the second period all the elements consist of the two shells, and in the third period all the elements present in the third period consist of the three shells. Like you can see in your screen that the period, the horizontal rows known as a period, each row is called a period. The elements which is present in each period having the same number of the shell. Like the first period consists of the one shell. In first period all the elements having the one shell, means first shell K shell. Then in the second period consists all the elements having two shells, and in the third period all the elements having the three shells, and in the fourth period all the elements which is present having the four shells. So the first period the shells are the K shell, the second period shells are the L shell, and in the third period the shells are the M shell, and in the fourth period shells are the N shell, means K, L, M, and N. And we know about that the K shell can accommodate 2 electrons, L shell can accommodate 8 electrons, and the M shell can accommodate 18 electrons, and the N shell can accommodate 32 electrons. Then we can proceed at the periodic table. Elements are organized by the atomic number, means that this periodic table was based on the atomic number. What is the atomic number? Atomic number means that the number of protons or the electrons which is present in an atom from left to right across each row. Means that in a period we are moving from left to right. Now each row is called a period. And the period number means that the number of electron shells are in an atom, or the period number means that the number of shells. Period number means that the number of shells. So it's a period number 1, period number 2, period number 3, period number 4, period 5, period 6, period 7. Okay. So we know that in the Moseley periodic table having 7 periods. What are the periods? Periods mean that the horizontal rows. So the period number 1 consists of 1 shell, period 2 consists of 2 shells, period 3 consists of 3 shells, period 4 consists of 4 shells, and so on. So all the element which is present in the same period having the same number of the shells. Then the main points about the modern periodic table: the number of the valence electron. Valence electron means that the electron which is present in the outermost shell or the valence shell is known as the valence electrons. In the same period increases gradually by 1 from left to right. In a period we are moving from left to right, and the atomic number increases 1 by 1. So when the atomic number increases, so the number of the valence electrons also increases, because atomic number means that the number of electrons present in an atom. This led to a parallel development of the properties for each element in each period. For example, the metallic property tend to decrease in a period while the non-metallic character tend to increase, means that the metallic property means that the elements that are classified, the elements are classified as a metals, and the metal property like these elements can lose their valence electrons, and they have the electropositive metals or the electropositive elements. So when we are moving from left to right, the metallic property tend to decrease while the non-metal character tend to increase. Non-metal means that the elements are classified as a non-metals, and their properties are increases when are moving from left to right. So in the period or in the group, we have the metallic property or the non-metallic property. Then we can proceed at the period 1, period 2, period 3. So in the period 1 means that the hydrogen and helium. So in period 1 we can discuss that in the period 1 we have the K shell, or we have the one shell. Period 1 means that it consists that all the elements in this period consist of the one shell. So hydrogen and helium, you can see that it consists of the one shell. One valence shell. One valence shell means that one n is filling, means one orbital, one s orbital is filling. S orbital, p orbital, d orbital, f orbital we can discuss previously. Then in the period 2, girls, you can see in the period 2, 2n is filling. So all the elements in the period 2 you can see consist of the two shell, because they belong to the period 2. The first shell is this and the second shell is this T. Then so in the first shell we know that it consists of 2 electrons, and in the second shell we can accommodate 8 electrons. So in this case 2n is filling. 2 orbital is in the progress. Then period number 3 means that all the elements that consist of the period 3 having the three shells, like you can see first one, second one, and the third one. So we know that the period number represent the number of shells. And then second thing, that the period number means that all the element which is present in the same period having the same number of the valence, having the same number of the shells. Then we can proceed that the period number 1, period 2, period 3, period 4, period 5, period 6 we can discuss in detail. So the period 1 contains two elements like the hydrogen and the helium. Both are the normal elements. This is called the shortest period of the periodic table. Means that we can say that in the modern periodic table 7 periods are present. So in this 7th period we discuss the first period. In first period hydrogen and helium are present, and these are called the shortest period. These are called the shortest period of the periodic table. Like you can see that the period number 1 consists of the hydrogen, you can see, and the helium. Period number 1 consists of the two elements, and this is called the shortest period and consists of the hydrogen and the helium. Then we can discuss first of all the S, P, D, F block elements. All the S block and the P block elements are called the representative elements. Means that the S block elements or the P block elements are known as a representative element. Now what is the S block element and what is the P block element? Means that the S block elements, so S and P block element, what is the S and the P block elements? Means that the S and the P orbitals are filling. Means that the electrons are coming or filling the S and the P block elements. Then second one, the transition elements are called the d block element. The transition elements are called the d block element. Now what is the d block element? Where the d orbital are in the progress or are in the filling of electrons. Then lanthanides and actinide series elements are called f block elements, where the f orbitals are in the are filling. We discussed three terminologies like the representative element, transition elements, lanthanides or actinide series element. So the representative means S block and P block. What is S block and P block? S and P block means that the S and P orbitals are the filling. Transition metals are called the D block elements, while the lanthanides or the actinide series called the F block elements. Now you can see on your screen that the S block, P block, D block and the F block. So first of all we can see that the S block. First of all we can see that the S block elements. S block, where the S orbital means S block means that the S orbital are in the progress or are in the filling of the electrons. Like we can discuss the principle in the first 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s and the 7s. So the electrons are filling from the lower to the higher. Now the F block elements. Now this P block elements. In which the p orbitals are filling of the electron or in the progress. D block elements, where the d orbitals are in the progress or are in the filling, and F block elements, where the F orbitals are in the progress or are in the filling of the electrons. So we discussed that the S and the P block elements are known as the representative elements. S and the P block elements are known as the representative elements, and the D block elements are known as the transition elements. D block elements are known as the transition elements, and the F block elements are known as the lanthanides or the actinide series elements. Now we can see these terminologies in the periodic table. In the periodic table you can see this is the periodic table. So in this periodic table, S block, P block, D block and the F block. So the first two blocks are the S block, and the last six blocks P1, P2, P3, P4, P5 and P6. First S1, S2 and then P1, P2, P3, P4, P5 and P6. So these are the representative elements, means where the S and the P orbitals are in the filling or in the progress, and the D block elements like the D1, D2, D3, D4, D5, D6, 7, 8, 9, 10. These are the transition elements. These are the transition elements having the variable valencies. Then the F block elements. In the F block elements, the F orbital are in the progress, or we can say that these are the lanthanides or the actinide series. Now we discuss the period 1. Period 1 consists of the two elements hydrogen and helium. Then the period 2 and 3. Period 2nd and 3rd contain the 8 representative element. Period 2nd and 3rd consist of the 8 representative element. What is the representative elements? All the S and the P block elements. They are called the short period. 2 are S block and 6 are P block elements. Now you can see on your screen that the second and third. We discussed the second and third. So second and third period consist of the 8 element. Where 2 are the S block, where 2 are the S block, where 2 are the S block, and the remaining 6 are the P block element. P block elements. So we can say that in the period second and third, 8 representative elements. 8 representative means that the 2 are the S block elements and 6 are the P block elements. So 6 plus 2, 6 plus 2 is equal to 8. So we can say that second and third consist of the 8 elements. 2 are the S block and 6 are the P block elements. Same in the case like the third period. In the third period also 2 S block and 6 are the P block elements. Then we can proceed that the period 2 lithium and beryllium are the S block and the remaining are the P block elements, which are including the boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, neon. And in the third pair, sodium and magnesium belong to the S block element, and the rest of all the elements consist of the P block elements, including like the aluminum, silicon, phosphorus, sulfur, chlorine and argon. Then the period fourth and the fifth, they are called a long period. First period are the shortest period, second and third are the short period, and period fourth and fifth are the long period. Fourth and fifth contain the 18 elements, consist of the 18 elements, and these 18 elements, of which 8 are the representative elements. Representative means 2 S block and 6 P block elements, and the 10 are the transition elements. 10 are the transition element. Fourth period ranges from the scandium to the zinc, and the fifth period ranges from the yttrium to the cadmium. Like you can see that the period fourth and fifth. So in the period fourth and fifth consist of the 18 elements. So consist of the 18 elements means that in these 18 elements 8 are the representative elements. Potassium and calcium are the S block. Calcium are the S block, and these are the P block elements. And these in the yellow are the D block elements. So S block elements like the potassium and the calcium, and D block elements mean the transition elements starting from the scandium to the zinc, and the P block elements starting from the gallium, germanium, arsenic, selenium, boron and the krypton. Done. So we discussed that the S, P and D orbitals means consist of the 18 elements. 2 are the S block, then D are 10 transition elements, and the 6 representative elements. Then also in the fifth period also consists of S2, consists of S block, P block and the D block, and consist of the 18 elements. Then we discussed that the last period 6 and the 7 is the longest period. It's called the longest period. First period is the shortest period, second and third is the short period, fourth and fifth are the long period, and these are 6 and 7. Sixth period is the longest period. It consists of the 32 elements. First period consists of 2 elements, second and third consist of 8 elements, and in the fourth and fifth consist of the 18 elements, and the sixth period or the seventh period consist of the 32 elements. In these 32 elements, 8 are the representative element, 2 S block and 6 P block elements, 10 are the transition elements, and 14 are known as the lanthanide series. 7th period is completed with the discovery of the 4 new elements. Means before the discovery of the 4 new elements, this period is still incompleted, but now this is completed with the discovery of the 4 new elements. It has a 2 S block, 6 P block, 10 are the transition metals, and 14 are the inner transition elements called the actinide series. So these are the 4 elements which are discovered, and the 7th period is completed. Now we discuss the 6th and 7th period. Focus at the 6th and the 7th period. So the 6th period consists of the 32 elements. 6th period consists of the 32 elements. So in this 32 elements, 2 are the S block, 2 are the S block elements, 6 are the P block elements. 2 are the S block P, and then the 6 are the P block elements. 2 are the S block and then 6 are the P block elements, means 8 representative elements. Then you can see on your screen that the star, that the 57, that the 57 here the star here consists of the star. So this 57 you can see, so this 57 and then the 58, 57 and then the in the bottom of the periodic table 58 consists means that the cerium. So these all are the 14 elements, these all are the 14 elements, these all are the 14 elements and called the lanthanide series, and called the lanthanide series. These are called the lanthanide series, and the remaining, these are the 10 transition elements, these are the 10 transition elements. So we know that it consists of the 32 elements. In these 32, 2 are the S block elements and 6 are the P block elements. So 6 plus 2 is equal to 8. So 8 are the representative elements and 10 are the transition 10 are the transition elements, and the remaining 14 are the lanthanide series, which is mentioned at the bottom of the periodic table. Then in the 7th period also consists of the 2 s orbital, P consists of the 6 elements, and the transition metals consist of the 10 elements, and the remaining means that the, you can see your screen that the 2 star, you can see in your screen that the consist of the 2 stars, and also at the bottom of the periodic table consists of the 2 lines. So after the 89, 90, 91, 92 and so on, so these 14 are the, actinide series. These 14s are present and having the name like the actinide series.